The story begins with our protagonist standing before a panel of judges. A female judge, visibly stunned, asks where he learned to act with such depth. She wonders if he graduated from a prestigious university theater program or studied abroad. The MC calmly replies that he actually graduated from a local university with a degree in designing and is entirely self-taught in acting. Another judge, thoroughly impressed by his skills, remarks that such a performance is far beyond the level of a novice. Without showing much emotion, the MC simply states that it wasn't that difficult and prepares to leave. However, before exiting, he turns back with a sharp warning. Please do not broadcast the video of my performance anywhere, or I will be forced to file a lawsuit against you. His bluntness leaves the judges speechless. Once he's gone, the female judge marvels at how he delivered such a spectacular performance after reading the script for only a few moments, skeptical that he is truly self-taught. The other judge remains lost in the MC's talent, calling him a monster, rarely seen in the entertainment industry. Meanwhile, the MC, whose name is Woojin, is outside feeling deeply embarrassed. He mutters to himself that he only acted because they put him on the spot. He starts questioning a mysterious black square that seems to be affecting him. The scene shifts to the previous day. Woojin wakes up with a massive headache and a feeling of dizziness. He had been drinking heavily the night before and can't quite remember how he got home. Slowly, the memories return. He remembers slamming his resignation letter into the face of his rhino-like boss and partying all night with friends. His phone rings. It's his friend, Yang Dae. Woojin picks up immediately, and Yang Dae checks to see if he made it home safe. Woojin asks how much he actually drank, as his memory is a blur. Yang Dae mentions that Woojin disappeared for about 30 minutes while they were out. When Woojin asks why he called, Yang Dae reminds him of their agreement. They were supposed to go to the preliminary auditions for Super Actor together. Woojin is confused until Yang Dae explains that Superstar is a massive popular audition reality show broadcast by a major company called SBC. The show's objective is to discover hidden stars. It has been trending heavily recently, attracting a wide range of participants, from professional trainees to ordinary people, all eager to showcase their talent. Woojin turned to Yang Dae and asked, "You always said acting was just a hobby for you. Are you actually trying to make a career out of it now?" Yang Dae shushed him and explained, "I only asked you to come along because I actually cleared the first round yesterday. The interviews and judging for the next round are happening tomorrow." Hearing this, Woojin replied, "I don't remember anything from yesterday, so I'm not really feeling the vibe." Yang Dae began to plead with him. "I'm getting incredibly nervous," he said. "Please, just support me a little." "In exchange," Yang Dae added, "I'll treat you to as much samgyeopsal, pork belly, and soju as you want." Woojin immediately brightened up and said, "Thank you," ready to go instantly. Yang Dae looked a bit annoyed by how easily he was bought. He then dropped a bombshell. Hong Yeon would be one of the judges the next day. Woojin was stunned to hear her name. The scene cuts to the next day. Woojin was already blushing, just thinking about Hong Yeon. Finally, he arrived at the audition venue with Yang Dae. More than half the seats were already occupied. Woojin was thrilled at the prospect of meeting the top actress known as the goddess, Hong Yeon. He pointed to some seats in front and told Yang Dae, "Let's go sit there." However, Yang Dae, trailing behind him, whispered, "I'm so nervous." Woojin asked, "What is there to be nervous about? You've even performed in the acting club before." A few minutes later, the situation took a turn for the worse. Yang Dae turned to Woojin and confessed, "I really need to go. Number 2. Woojin was taken aback but urged him to rush to the washroom. As Yang Dae ran off, he shouted back, "If they call my name, contact me immediately." Woojin agreed, waving him off. Once Yang Dae was gone, Woojin chuckled to himself, thinking, even though he's a nervous wreck, this is actually kind of entertaining. He wondered if Yang Dae would make it back in time. 10 minutes passed and Woojin began to panic. Why isn't he back yet? What am I going to do if they call his name, he thought. Just then, a staff member called out for the next candidate. "Yang Dae." Woojin froze in shock. Then, laughing nervously, he muttered to himself, Maybe I just heard that wrong." Just then, the announcer's voice rang out, calling for Yang Dae. Hearing the name, Woojin froze in his tracks. A wave of anxiety washed over him as he wondered, did that idiot Yang Dae actually trip and fall in the restroom? Hustling over to the announcer, Woojin offered a hurried apology. "I'm Yang Dae's friend," he explained breathlessly. "He just stepped into the restroom. Let me go grab him real quick." The announcer looked at him sternly. "Your friend is the very first one up. We can't afford to wait. If he doesn't show up immediately, he'll be disqualified." Woojin's heart sank. "Getting disqualified like this would be a total embarrassment," he pleaded. "Is there any way you could give us just a little more time?" The announcer began discussing the situation with someone over his headset. After receiving a response, a sinister smile crept across his face. He turned back to Woojin and gestured for him to follow. "It's fine if Young D is running late," he said smoothly. Relieved, Woojin thanked him and followed him into the audition room. However, as soon as they entered, the announcer dropped a bombshell. The first round had already begun. The announcer asked Woojin to wait briefly, promising to guide him soon. While waiting, Woojin felt a wave of nervousness, but his attention was quickly captured by Yeon. He was mesmerized by her beauty, thinking to himself how truly stunning she was in person. Suddenly, a man approached him and handed over a script. The man asked, "Are you Yang Dae's friend? Today's assignment is improvisational acting, and this is the script your friend needs to follow." He added that if Woojin was bored, he could read it too. As Woojin took the script, a strange glowing square appeared before him. Intrigued and confused, he reached out to touch it. The moment his fingers made contact, a blinding light erupted, and Woojin felt himself being pulled inside the glow. Inside the simulation. When he finally opened his eyes, he found himself in a completely different environment. He was standing right next to where he had been reading, but everything had changed. Did I just enter the script by touching that square? He wondered in dread. Before him, another script appeared, a page and a half long, titled Unknown and F4 grade script. It noted that it could only be read 10%. Confused by the options appearing on the interface, Woojin blindly selected the first one, Frightened Man. Immediately, a mechanical system voice announced, "Preparation complete. This is a damaged script, and it can only be used 10%. Implementing now." Startled, Woojin cried out, "Is someone there? Who are you?" But the system ignored him and began the simulation. The nightmare begins. Woojin suddenly found himself transported to a mountainous region. He pinched himself, wondering if it was a dream, but the sensation was far too vivid. Instinctively, he began to run, fueled by a fear he couldn't explain. That's when he felt it. Someone was chasing him. A dark shadow loomed behind him, commanding him to stop. In his haste, Woojin's foot caught on a tree root, and he tumbled hard to the ground. To his horror, the pain was agonizingly real. The shadow figure loomed over him, growling, "I am hungry because of you." Terrified, Woojin begged for his life. Before he could react, the figure attacked him with a knife. As the blade pierced him, Woojin let out a blood-curdling scream. The man, watching Woojin bleed, laughed chillingly and muttered, "After I finish you, I'll go eat pizza." Woojin felt completely helpless. Back in the real world, his body reacted to the phantom pain, and he collapsed onto the floor right in front of the judges. The judges sat in stunned silence. Yeon stared in disbelief, while Woojin, still on the floor, was overwhelmed by the realization that his performance in the script's world was being seen by everyone. He knew he had to get out of there immediately. However, a captivated Yeon approached him and asked, "Where did you learn to act like that?" Internally, Woojin was panicking at her proximity, but he forced himself to maintain a calm exterior. Deciding he had to handle the situation head-on, he stood up and replied, "I learned acting all on my own." Hearing this, the second judge was left completely stunned, exclaiming that such a high-level performance couldn't possibly come from a total novice. Deep down, Woojin was dying of embarrassment, but he maintained his cold, serious facade. He coolly remarked, "Honestly, it wasn't even that difficult for me." With that, he turned to leave quickly. But before stepping out, he dropped a final threat. "If you dare to broadcast my performance, I will sue you." The judges were left speechless by his intensity. As he left, one judge turned to her colleague and whispered, "There's no way he's self-taught. That has to be a lie." Her colleague, however, was trembling with excitement at the thought of such an extraordinary genius entering the entertainment industry. A massive snowball of misunderstanding had just begun to roll, and the only person completely unaware of it was Woojin himself. Outside, Young Dae walked up to Woojin with a grin. Woojin immediately snapped at him, "Dude, what took you so long in the bathroom?" Young Dae shrugged it off and asked, "So how did your audition go? They kicked me out in like 15 seconds. But what about you? Did you get selected? They were asking a lot of questions about you." Hearing this, Woojin felt a wave of embarrassment wash over him again. Trying to change the subject, he pointed at the papers Young Dae was holding. "Is that the same script they gave me?" Young Dae handed the script over. The moment Woojin's fingers brushed against the paper, that mysterious black square appeared before his eyes once again. But this time, he knew exactly what would happen. If he touched it, he would be transported back to that strange dimension. Woojin realized this wasn't just a dream or his imagination. It was a real, physical experience. The sensations he felt while reading matched exactly what he had experienced in those mysterious mountains when he selected the terrified man option. A wild thought crossed his mind. Does this mean I can physically live out every situation written in a script? Driven by curiosity, he turned to Young Dae and asked, "Do you have any more scripts at your place? If you do, let's go there right now." Young Dae was confused by the sudden urgency but agreed, and soon they arrived at his apartment. The moment they stepped inside, Woojin gagged at the smell and barked, "Open a window, quick!" Young Dae grumbled, "First you invite yourself over, and now you're complaining about the decor?" As he rummaged through a cupboard, he asked, "Since when do you care about scripts anyway? You don't even watch TV." "I just need to confirm something," Woojin replied vaguely. Finally, Young Dae pulled out a stack of old drama and unproduced movie scripts. As soon as Woojin's hand touched them, the mysterious black square flickered back into existence. This time, Woojin wanted to test the physics of this world. He checked his watch and told Young Dae, "Watch me closely." Young Dae looked at him and nodded in agreement. Suddenly, Woojin found himself transported back to that mysterious void. It felt surreal, but he shook off the confusion and decided to examine the white square first. As soon as he touched it, two more white squares materialized before him. "I see," Woojin mused. "It seems the number of squares will increase as I acquire new scripts or screenplays." Realizing he couldn't stay there forever, he decided to find a way out. He waited for a moment, expecting a natural exit, but nothing happened. He began experimenting with different commands, shouting phrases like, "Log out! Go back! Turn off! And let me out!" Finally, the moment he uttered exit, he was snapped back into the real world. Young Dae, who was standing right beside him, looked bewildered. "What's wrong with you? Why did you suddenly freeze like a statue?" Woojin quickly glanced at his phone, his mind racing. "I was inside that black square for 5 minutes, yet not a single second has passed in the real world." While Young Dae continued to fuss over him, his phone began to ring. After answering and exchanging a few words, Young Dae whispered urgently, "The producers of Super Actor want to speak with you." He handed the phone over to Woojin. Still feeling a lingering sense of embarrassment from their earlier conversation, Woojin offered a soft, "Hello." A woman's voice responded from the other end. "We are contacting you because you've successfully cleared the first round. It's quite fascinating. You showed up with a friend, but you were the one who made the cut. Would you like to appear on Super Actor again?" Woojin paused, a wave of skepticism washing over him. "Are they trying to play me?" he wondered. "There's no way I'm going back there." Stealing his resolve and channeling his inner Chad, he replied in a cold, serious tone, "I have no interest in returning." "I only really showed up to kill some time," Woojin admitted. Hearing this, the lady felt a wave of awkwardness wash over her. She couldn't help but wonder, if his casual acting was already this incredible, what on earth would happen if he actually took it seriously? Stunned by his bluntness, she remarked, "You're being a bit too honest, aren't you?" Woojin simply replied that it was the truth and told her to just forget about it. Internally, however, he was desperately pleading for her to strike his previous nonsense from her memory. Meanwhile, the lady was deep in thought. She knew that if this footage were ever broadcast, he would become an overnight sensation. It felt like a genuine pity that a talent like his had no interest in the spotlight. Resigned, she told him, "Fine, I'll have your audition footage deleted." "Wait," Woojin interrupted. "Could I actually get a copy of the footage where I was acting?" She agreed, telling him to leave his number so she could text him the video. Woojin thanked her, and with that, she ended the call. Suddenly, the voice of the judge from behind startled her. He inquired if that was the same guy from earlier. She confirmed it was, adding that he claimed to have done it all just for fun and had no intention of returning for the second round. The man let out a laugh as a spark of an idea formed in his mind. "Do you have his number?" he asked curiously. On the other side of town, Woojin lay exhausted at home. He still had a few things he needed to investigate at Young Dae's place. He recalled how Young Dae had practically lost his mind after receiving that call from the Super Actor PD. Woojin had to make a quick exit just to escape the chaos, but the experience had led to some crucial discoveries. One, time dilation. Whenever he enters the black square, time in the real world comes to a complete standstill. Second, invisibility. He is the only one who can perceive the black square. It remains completely invisible to everyone else. The third and final discovery was simple yet absolute. To leave that surreal dimension, one had to vocalize a single command: exit. With these fundamental mechanics confirmed, Woojin decided it was time to finish the task he had started. He turned his attention back to the dramas that had already been broadcast: Elegant First Doctor and Thug Prosecutor. Before diving back in, he realized a practical limitation. He couldn't bring his phone into the black square. He needed to memorize the real-world data first. Thug Prosecutor has a rating of 7.1%, and Elegant First Daughter has a rating of 2.7%. After committing the numbers to memory, Woojin stepped back into the black square. As expected, 3 scripts materialized before him. However, something new caught his eye. The scripts were marked with grades E and C. Woojin began to speculate. What do these grades actually represent? It didn't seem to be a simple reflection of the script's literary quality. Was it tied to public popularity? Or perhaps the actor's individual performance? Driven by curiosity, he wondered if he could access scripts for projects that hadn't even been released to the public yet. He decided to test this by checking an unproven play, a movie that hadn't even entered production. To his shock, it was labeled as Grade B. Grade B? That's the highest I've seen so far, Woojin noted. Youngdae had previously dismissed it as a gamble, but the system suggested otherwise. It seemed he could indeed evaluate the potential of projects still in development. Having gathered enough intel, Woojin whispered, "Exit." Back in his room, he set aside a detective-themed script, deciding it was wiser to start practicing with the dramas that had already aired. Just then, his phone vibrated. It was a message from the super actor PD containing the footage of his audition. Woojin stared at the notification, a wave of dread washing over him. He knew he had to watch it to improve, but the mere thought of seeing his own performance made him feel physically ill. "I have to do this," he muttered, bracing himself for the inevitable surge of embarrassment, "even if it makes me want to throw up." With that in mind, he finally started the video. As soon as it began, the screen showed him screaming in pain. At the same time, somewhere else, a girl was watching the very same clip. She was stunned by Woojin's performance. Surprised, she asked, "Has this guy actually been stabbed before in real life? If not, how can someone show expressions like that?" The man beside her called out, "Writer Park Yumi, just look at how expressive he is. Doesn't he remind you of a character?" Hearing this, Yumi began flipping through some papers on her desk. One of them contained behavioral analysis notes for building a sociopath character. She started imagining that character in her head. Smiling with excitement, she thought, "I was worried I'd have to change this character. The role is extremely challenging. It's full of ambition, and I couldn't find the right actor to express it. I need to meet this guy in person." Meanwhile, Woojin was still watching the same video. Looking at his own performance, he muttered, "This is way better than I expected. How can I be this good at acting? Does that mean clearing the first round wasn't a fluke? Did I really pass because of my acting?" He started imagining how confidently he had spoken before, like a total Chad, saying, "Acting isn't that hard for me. I'm a genius." He remembered how shocked the judges looked. Blushing from embarrassment, he thought, "I only acted serious to hide how embarrassed I was. But maybe they really thought I was some kind of genius. Well, it doesn't matter now. I'm probably never going to see them again anyway. That's why I shouldn't overthink it this time. For now, I just need to finish this weird space experiment. There could still be features I don't know about yet. First, I'll use the scripts like last time, but I really don't want to die from a knife again." Just like that, the night passed, and the next day arrived. Woojin's condition was terrible after experimenting all night, but strangely, he didn't feel as foggy as before. His body had finally started to adapt to it. From the experiment, he realized something shocking. He remembered every single line of the character in the script, not just the dialogue, but all 5 senses of the character, their emotions, thoughts, and even their feelings. It was as if the character's entire world had settled inside him. He laughed to himself and thought, maybe staying here and becoming an actor isn't so bad. Going to Australia for work, this kind of life might actually be more interesting. Just then, his phone started ringing. He checked the screen. It was an unknown number. When he picked up and said hello, the man on the other end asked, "Is this Woojin? This is producer Song Man Woo speaking. Do you remember me?" Woojin immediately recalled him, the bearded man who had been sitting in the center of the judging panel. Manhwa chuckled and said, "Do you think we could meet for a bit?" Woojin couldn't understand why he wanted to meet, so he replied, "If you tell me the reason first, I'll think about it." Manwoo answered, "It's a bit awkward to discuss over the phone. I'd rather talk in person." After hearing that, Woojin said, "I'm only free at 4 p.m. Can you make it?" Manwoo asked. "Yeah, okay," Woojin replied. Manwoo thanked him, said he'd send the address, confirmed they'd meet at 4, and hung up. After the call ended, Woojin stood there feeling uneasy. Why does he want to meet me, he wondered. Youngdae said these are big people in the industry. Let's see how famous they really are. Thinking that, he searched them on the internet. Woojin was shocked to discover they were extremely well known. "Why would people like that want to meet me?" he muttered. "I just hope they're not trying to get me to act again." Sometime later, standing nervously at the meeting place, Woojin thought to himself, "Yeah, I knew it. Sitting across from him, Manwoo got straight to the point. The acting you showed the other day wasn't really dialogue focused, right? This time, I want to see your monologue performance. At those words, everyone in the room went silent, staring directly at Woojin. Seeing this, Woojin started panicking inside. What kind of nonsense is this? He thought. I knew something like this would happen. Trying to stay calm, he told himself. I've only been acting for one day. I should just keep quiet. Manwoo continued. If you want, you can read the script from the tablet. Interpret it however you feel is right. Woojin glanced at the tablet and inwardly started cursing. The black square wasn't appearing. Without the black square, I can't enter that space, he realized. Looks like it only works with paper scripts. And there's nothing like that here. Panic rose in his chest. If I can't access that space, they'll find out my acting skills were fake. I'm screwed. What do I even do now? Then another thought crossed his mind. But does it even matter? Is risking my life really necessary just for acting? At the end of the day, I'm just an ordinary guy with nothing to do with this industry. I should just be honest. After deciding that, Woojin finally spoke. All the judges leaned forward, watching him closely. Woojin said, While I was coming here today, a cat suddenly jumped at me. But I didn't do anything. The room froze. Manwoo blinked in confusion. Everyone else stared at Woojin, trying to process what they just heard. This is trash, Manwoo thought. He's worse than an aspiring actor. Yoon thought. This is the complete opposite of what he showed us the other day. Yumi sighed inwardly, thinking, a first-year acting student would be 100 times better than this. Meanwhile, Woojin kept rambling uselessly. Inside his head, he was only thinking one thing. I just want to finish this and go home as fast as possible. Then dropping his Chad mode, Woojin looked at Manwoo and said, Now that I've been exposed, I just want to go home. Hearing that, Manwoo frowned in confusion. What is he even talking about, he wondered. Woojin, however, still looked completely serious, his eyes calm, his expression firm. At that moment, something clicked in Manwoo's head. Oh, I get it now, he thought. He's acting like he can't act. With that realization, Manwoo asked, Why are you pretending you don't know how to act? Inside, he became more convinced. He's definitely using acting to show his dissatisfaction. The others sitting there also started thinking the same thing. Was he acting like he couldn't act? Meanwhile, Woojin had absolutely no clue what they meant. What does acting like you can't act even mean, he wondered. Looking at Manwoo, he thought, I was just trying to leave. But this guy started saying weird things again. Maybe the bearded guy misunderstood something. Does he really think I'm some kind of genius? Whatever. I still need to maintain my Sigma male image. Woojin then spoke calmly. I acted like that because you told me to perform without explaining anything. I really didn't like being treated that way. After saying that, Woojin stood up from his seat. Seeing this, Manwoo quickly apologized. Hesitating slightly, he explained, I wanted to show everyone you're acting. So this was my mistake, Manwoo said. I'll explain everything properly. Please, sit back down. Hearing that, Woojin showed his displeasure, but slowly sat back in his seat. Manwoo let out a quiet sigh of relief. I can't lose this monster, he thought to himself. Getting straight to the point, he continued. We're preparing a new drama right now, and I want to cast you as one of the actors. Woojin kept a tough expression on his face. Did he really call me here just to cast me? He thought. Inside, he was actually thrilled, but he made sure none of it showed on his face. Just then, Yumi placed a script in front of him and said, This is the first part of the script. We're showing it to an outsider for the first time. Please choose whichever role you like. Manwoo nodded in agreement. Take as much time as you need. 10 minutes, 30 minutes. It's fine. Read it comfortably, pick a role, and perform a few lines. Yoon, watching Woojin, thought to herself, his role is already decided, but right now we want to see how he actually performs. Woojin began reading the script carefully. A few minutes passed. Finally, he looked up and said, I've chosen my role. I want to play Assistant Manager Park. I'll perform the dog scene. At those words, Yumi and Manwoo exchanged looks. That's the sociopath character I wanted in this drama, Yumi thought. The role hadn't been assigned to anyone yet, but this guy had chosen such a difficult character without a second of hesitation. Just then, Woojin placed the script down on the table. Seeing this, Yumi asked, Can you perform it without looking? Woojin nodded calmly like a total Chad. Hearing that, Yumi felt impressed. Did he already understand everything? The lines, the stage directions, the emotions. All of it? Manwoo then said, All right, let's begin. As he spoke, he thought to himself, let's see what kind of acting skills this monster shows us this time. Woojin suddenly covered his mouth and went completely still. Then something shifted. His eyes lit up. The entire aura around him changed. Manhwa and the others froze in shock, noticing the transformation. Did he already understand the emotions of the character? This fast, they wondered? Woojin gave a faint smile and said softly, you go first. Then, as if he noticed something, his expression turned deadly serious. Everyone in the room stared at him without blinking. Woojin muttered, that's dog poop. The scene shifted into the character's world. Woojin had stepped on dog poop. The world around him slowly blurred. What once felt ordinary now looked almost like a strange fairy tale. Then his gaze fell on a dog nearby. It felt as if he had entered a completely different reality, like a dream world layered over the real one. A strange urgency filled him. He crouched down in front of the dog and whispered, so, you were here, you little bastard. You're pretty cute, soft enough to crush. He slowly stretched out his hand and gently poked the dog. Then his expression twisted. Like a true psychopath, he murmured, I want to tear you apart, so badly that your pieces scatter everywhere. He performed all of this with a perfectly serious expression, not exaggerating, not forcing anything, just pure, chilling realism. The scene snapped back to the real world. Woojin slowly opened his eyes and calmly told the stunned judges, I'm done. No one spoke. They couldn't even process what they had just witnessed. How could Woojin portray such a dangerous character so vividly? It felt as if Assistant Manager Park himself had been standing right there in front of them. Yumi thought to herself, Assistant Manager Park is a character I built with my blood, sweat, and sleepless nights. I never believed anyone could truly bring him to life. But this actor named Woojin proved me wrong. Yumi stared at him, stunned. I've never seen someone's acting surpass my own writing before. I've written so many scripts that I've honestly grown tired of them. I've worked with top actors like Yoon, but I've never seen anyone like this kid. I can't lose Woojin. Meanwhile, Woojin was having completely different thoughts. This role is seriously messed up, he thought. Or maybe Assistant Manager Park's personality is just that twisted. Strange colors still flickered in his vision. The script's title read, Profiler Rying. The scene briefly shifted back to a few minutes earlier. Yumi had handed him the script and said, this is the first time we're showing this to an outsider. Please pick a role and perform it. But at that moment, Woojin hadn't understood much of what they were saying. He touched the black square and thought, I need a little time first. The moment he did, he entered that subspace again. He let out a breath of relief. Now he could think calmly. He still couldn't believe it. They want to cast me in such a huge project. As an actor? Then he reasoned, it must be because of my amazing acting skills. Looking at the script inside the subspace, he thought, the experience I've gained here is way more impressive than I expected. Then he noticed something that surprised him. This was a grade A script. Is grade A the highest? Or is there something above it? After a moment, he muttered to himself, well, I'm pretty sure its viewer rating will be at least twice that of that C-grade movie Thug Prosecutor. I'm not totally sure, but with this script, I'll be able to experiment with all 3 grades. He read the title again. Profiler Rying. Is this a crime genre? Did they already pick a role for me? Is there no small role in this at all? When I think about it, this isn't actually a bad opportunity, Woojin told himself. If I play this right, I could get evaluated by major industry people like them. With that thought, he started reading the script carefully. He noticed many character names listed throughout. The ones at the top must be the main leads, he figured. They'll have tons of scenes, so I should pick something safer. His eyes landed on the very last name, Assistant Manager Park. A small role. Yeah, this one. He selected it. The moment he did, the system began its preparation. The scene returned to the present. Woojin had no idea how his acting had actually gone, but he was excited to hear their evaluation. Just then, Yumi suddenly stood up from her seat with a serious expression. Woojin's heart skipped. Why is she coming toward me? She looks scary. Is she mad? Before he could react, Yumi grabbed both his hands. Woojin froze in shock. Please, she said earnestly, accept the role of Assistant Manager Park. Her expression brightened with excitement. You're the only one who can play this role. Nearby, Manhwa watched the scene unfold and thought, looks like writer Yumi is really fired up. How can she cast someone this recklessly? Then he sighed inwardly. Well, I get it. She wants to secure this monster before anyone else does. Meanwhile, inside, Woojin was completely overwhelmed. She just grabbed my hands and offered me a role this big. Looking at Yumi's reaction, he thought, this proves it, that subspace really is incredible. With that realization, he slipped back into his Sigma composure, gently pulling his hands free. At that moment, Manwoo stepped in to calm things down. Before anything else, he said, I'd like to ask Woojin a few questions first. Then he turned to him and began, you mentioned earlier that you learned acting on your own for the super actor audition, right? So, how long have you actually been doing this? In reality, it was only Woojin's second day in the acting world. But once again, he put on his calm, Chad persona and replied, I don't remember exactly. It's been a while since I started. Hearing that, Manwoo studied him closely. What does a while even mean, he wondered. The way he read the script and performed assistant manager Park in such a short time. It feels like this kid has at least 10 years of acting experience. That level of confidence proves it. Then why hasn't he shown his talent until now? After thinking it over, Manwoo asked, so where did you do this self-study? Even if you learned on your own, there's a limit to what someone can achieve alone. The sudden question caught Woojin off guard. Oh, that's how this works, he thought. Before Woojin could answer, Manwoo continued, almost answering his own question. If people knew about an actor like you, directors would never leave you unnoticed. And you don't seem like someone from a small theater either. So did you study overseas? At the mention of overseas training, Woojin was startled. The story is getting bigger and bigger, he thought nervously. Just then, Yoon stepped in and said, if there's a reason you don't want to share that, it's completely fine. Woojin immediately felt relieved. That's actually a great option, he thought. Keeping a serious face, he replied, yes, I'll leave it at that. Inside, though, he was silently thanking Yoon. I just picked the secret reason option for something that doesn't even exist in the first place. And with that, if you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell icon so you never miss the next episode. See you in the next video.